Part 1. The night that changed everything. The wedding hall still smelled of roses and sandalwood when Ethan Hale finally stepped into the quiet corridor leading to the bridal suite. The music had faded hours ago. Guests were gone. Lights dimmed. Only the faint hum of the air conditioning and the soft creaking of old hotel floors remained as proof of life in the majestic building. It was past midnight, 2 hours after his wife, Arya, had removed her makeup, kissed him on the cheek, and told him she needed just a moment to breathe. It was supposed to be the happiest night of their lives, the beginning of everything they had promised. But it became the moment everything shattered. Ethan pushed the door open softly, expecting to see Arya wrapped in a blanket, her long dark hair loose over her shoulders, maybe smiling at him through sleepy eyes. Instead, his voice cracked the silence. "Arya, you there, love?" Only the cold whispered back. He took a step inside. Something felt wrong, like the room itself was holding its breath. The world would ask him later what he had found, what he had said, what he had done. Ethan never forgot the exact sound of his scream. But that came later. One, the bride who smiled through pain. Arya Collins had always been the woman people looked at twice, not because she was loud or extravagant, but because her quietness felt like a secret waiting to be discovered. At 27, she carried herself with a grace that belonged to old films and forgotten poetry. Her smile could melt a decade of worries, yet her eyes, they held storms. Ethan used to tease her about those eyes. "You look like you've lived 100 lives before this one," he'd say. And she'd reply with a soft laugh, "Maybe I have, maybe I'm tired." Arya rarely shared the darker parts of her past, but Ethan knew enough. An alcoholic father, a mother who walked away without leaving a note, and years of loneliness disguised as independence. He had promised her, again and again, that marriage would be her rebirth. "It'll be us against the world," he had whispered the night before the wedding. She had smiled, but not fully. There was always a piece of her that stayed locked away. 2. A husband who loved too much. Ethan was the opposite, open, expressive, the kind of man who loved with his whole chest. He volunteered at shelters, wrote long messages to friends on their birthdays, and held grief the way other people held breath, inwardly, tightly, until he nearly folded. His love for Arya was overwhelming, consuming, sometimes suffocating. He never admitted that to himself, but others noticed. "You worship her too much," his best friend Lucas often said. "Nobody should be held that tightly." Ethan always brushed it off. Love wasn't a cage, he thought, until he learned it could become one. 3. The wedding night. The wedding had been breathtaking, white orchids hanging like snowfall, candles flickering in golden halos, guests laughing, dancing, drinking, loving. Arya looked like a dream walking out of moonlight, soft, serene, perfect. Yet Ethan noticed the tremor in her hands. "You okay?" he whispered during their first dance. Her smile trembled. "Just tired, it's been a long day." He kissed her forehead. He thought that was enough. It was. Hours later, when they made it to the suite, Arya sat before the vanity mirror, slowly wiping her makeup away with gentle downward strokes. Her reflection changed with each wipe, glamour fading, reality emerging. When she removed the final trace of lipstick, she looked at Ethan through the mirror. "Do you still love me like this?" she asked. He wrapped his arms around her shoulders, resting his chin lightly on her head. "I love you more like this." Her eyes glistened. Ethan thought it was joy. He didn't know it was fear. "Give me a few minutes," she whispered. "I just need to breathe." He nodded, kissed her cheek, and stepped into the attached balcony to make a quick call. When he returned, she was gone from the mirror. And silence replaced her. For the last words heard. At 12:42 a.m., a housekeeper passing by heard a faint voice inside the suite, a woman's voice. But no one ever knew what she said. At 12:46 a.m., the door closed, softly, purposefully. At 1:03 a.m., Ethan knocked for the third time. "Arya, you okay?" "Nothing." He assumed she had fallen asleep. At 2:09 a.m., 2 hours after she had removed her makeup, Ethan walked back inside. And life was never the same again. 5. The discovery. He saw her feet first. Bare, motionless, too still. Then her hand, fingers curled inward as if reaching for something she never got to touch. And finally, Arya herself. Lying on the cold floor just beside the bed, her hair sprawled like ink on marble, her face pale, her lips parted slightly, her dress still draped around her like a quiet shroud. The most chilling detail: the faint track of a single tear dried along her cheek. Arya, Ethan's voice broke into 1,000 pieces. He kneels, shaking her shoulders. Arya, wake up, please wake up. Her skin was cold. Colder than anything he had ever touched. Arya, please. He pressed his ear to her chest. Silence. Silence louder than storms. That was when he said the words that echoed through the night, through police reports, through every news channel in the country. She was alive when I left her. It became the sentence the world tore apart 1,000 times. 6. The police arrive. The paramedics arrived 8 minutes after Ethan's call. They checked her pulse, her pupils, her temperature. Time of death estimated, between 12:30 a.m. and 1:00 a.m. Ethan's breaths turned jagged. But I heard her at 12:42, he insisted. No, Mr. Hale, the officer replied gently. Whoever you heard, it wasn't her. Ethan's throat closed. The room suddenly felt too quiet, too wrong, too heavy. And then, Sir, did your wife have enemies? Anyone who might want to hurt her? Ethan's eyes went blank, empty, terrified. I don't know, he said. She never told me everything. 7 secrets on the first night. When investigators opened Arya's purse, they found a letter addressed to no one. A second phone Ethan didn't know existed. A receipt for a one-way train ticket. A small velvet pouch containing a silver ring that wasn't her wedding ring. Ethan felt his entire world tilt. Why did she have another phone? No one answered. Why a train ticket? We just got married. Still no answer. He fell to his knees. Love can't fix secrets. Love can't fix what is never spoken. Love can't fix a past that returns like a knife. But Arya never believed in love fixing anything. She believed in surviving. And now she wasn't even alive for that. 8. Ethan's breakdown. Sitting on the hotel hallway floor at 3:15 a.m., Ethan held his wedding band so tightly it cut into his skin. Blood dotted his palm, but he didn't feel it. Lucas arrived first, rushing through the corridor with panic plastered across his face. What the hell happened? Ethan didn't respond. What happened? Lucas repeated, voice breaking. Ethan lifted his head slowly. His eyes looked haunted, like someone had stolen the light behind them. She left me, he whispered. Lucas's throat tightened. No, she didn't leave you, she. No, Ethan shook his head. Not by choice, but she still left me. And then he added something that chilled Lucas to his core. She was scared, Lucas. I know she was scared, and she didn't tell me. 9. The autopsy surprise. At 7:20 a.m., the coroner called Detective Rita Morgan. We have early findings. Go on. There's no sign of struggle. Poison, Rita asked. Possibly, but here's something stranger. There were traces of makeup-setting chemicals around her nose. Rita frowned. Are you telling me makeup killed her? No, the coroner replied. Something she touched after removing the makeup did. 10. Ethan's final words of the night. Before being taken for questioning, Ethan sat alone in the dim suite, staring at the floor where Arya had lain. He whispered into the silence. I promised to protect you. How did I lose you in the first 2 hours? His voice cracked. And then the words he repeated the rest of the night. She was alive when I left her. But the world didn't believe him. Not yet, the past she tried to hide. The sun crawled over the horizon with the slow heaviness of grief, casting pale light into the hotel's suite that had become a crime scene. Officers moved quietly, as though afraid to disturb the ghost of a bride who had died too soon. Yellow markers dotted the floor. Photographs flickered under flashlights. Soft whispers replaced music, laughter, and promises. Ethan Hale sat on the edge of the bed, the same bed he should have shared with Arya on their first night as husband and wife. Instead, he sat alone, his tie loosened, his hair messy, his eyes swollen with a grief so raw it looked like it hurt him just to breathe. He didn't notice the officers stepping around him. He didn't hear the drawers being opened. He didn't realize he was shaking. All he saw was the empty space beside the bed, where Arya had lain only hours earlier. That space felt like a hole carved out of his soul. One, the detective who refused to look away. Detective Rita Morgan entered the room quietly, carrying her notepad. Her expression was calm, professional, but her eyes betrayed the heaviness she felt. She had seen death before hundreds of times, but something about this one felt different. Maybe it was the bride's pale face, frozen in a moment of unspoken fear. Maybe it was the broken groom, trembling on the bed. Or maybe it was the feeling that this wasn't an accident, no matter how peaceful the body looked. She approached Ethan reluctantly. "Mr. Hale," she said gently, "I need to ask a few questions." He didn't look up. He couldn't. "Ethan," she repeated softly, kneeling slightly so she could meet his eyes. "Please." Slowly, painfully, Ethan raised his head. "Yes." Rita sat across from him. "You said earlier that Arya was alive when you left her. Can you walk me through exactly what happened?" His voice cracked the same way a weak branch cracks under snow. "We came back to the room around midnight. She was tired, exhausted, really. She sat at the mirror and removed her makeup. She looked sad. I thought it was just nerves, wedding stress." He swallowed hard. "She told me she wanted a minute alone to breathe. I stepped out to take a call. When I came back, the lights were dim and she wasn't in the bathroom. I thought she was lying down." His hands clenched. "But when I walked around the bed, she was on the floor, cold, already gone." Rita wrote down every word. She watched him closely, not with suspicion, but with the caution of someone who knew the world breaks in many different ways. "Ethan," she said quietly, "did Arya have a medical condition, anything that could explain this?" "No," he whispered. "She was healthy. We did the full pre-wedding medicals. She was fine." "Any medications she was taking?" "No, nothing." Rita exhaled slowly. "Did she ever talk about someone from her past, someone she feared?" This time, his reaction was different. He froze. Something flickered in his eyes, a memory maybe, a warning, a name. But then it was gone. "I don't know," he whispered. Rita knew he was hiding something. But she also knew he might not even understand what he was hiding. 2. The secret phone. At 9:40 a.m., forensics brought in the second phone, the one found in Arya's handbag. It was old, scratched, cheap. The kind of phone someone uses when they don't want to be traced. "Mr. Hale," Rita said, placing it on the table. "Did you know she had this?" Ethan blinked at the device, as though it were a snake. "And no," he stammered. She never showed me that." Rita tapped the cracked screen. "It has only 3 contacts saved." She slid the notepad toward him. He leaned forward to read the names. MK. Rose. Unknown number, saved with only a heart emoji. Something inside him clenched. A heart emoji. He felt physically sick. "I think I'm going to." He stood abruptly, nearly knocking the chair over. Lucas caught him by the arm as he stumbled. "Sit, man, breathe." But Ethan couldn't breathe. A heart emoji. Why would Arya keep a secret phone with a contact saved that way? Why did she hide it from him? What kind of marriage had he entered without even realizing? Rita watched him carefully. "Mr. Hale, this doesn't necessarily mean what you think it means." He laughed bitterly, tears slipping down his face. It never does at first. 3. The letter. The next item extracted from Arya's belongings was the letter. No name writ on the envelope. Just a single word on the back. Forgive. Rita didn't open it yet, not in front of Ethan. She wanted gloves, cameras, and protocol, but she held the envelope as though it carried the weight of the world. Do you recognize the handwriting? She asked. Ethan took it gently, like he was holding a piece of Arya's soul. Yes, he whispered. It's hers. Did she tell you she wrote anything? No, he said. We promised no secrets. His voice cracked into a broken whisper. She promised. Rita placed a hand on his shoulder. It was the smallest gesture she could make, but it felt like the only kindness she was allowed to give. Secrets are rarely about betrayal, she said softly. Sometimes they're about survival. Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at the envelope, as if it would open itself and reveal everything he didn't want to know. 4. The train ticket. The next discovery was the train ticket, booked for the next morning. One way. Early morning departure. Destination, Windermere, a quiet lakeside town hours away. Rita placed it on the table. Ethan stared. She was leaving, he whispered. The pain hit him so sharply he doubled forward, elbows on his knees, head in his shaking hands. Why, Arya, why? Lucas rubbed his back helplessly. Maybe she had a reason, Ethan. Maybe she wasn't leaving you. Maybe. She bought it before the wedding, Rita interrupted gently. Ethan's heart stopped. Before the vows. Before the dance. Before she smiled for pictures. She had planned to run. Why, Ethan whispered, why marry me at all? Rita didn't reply. Because she didn't know. Not yet. 5. The coroner's update. At 10:20 a.m., the coroner, Dr. Patel, entered the room. Detective Morgan, I have preliminary toxicology. Ethan looked up sharply. Tell me, he said. Patel hesitated, glancing at Rita. She nodded. Go ahead. Your wife showed signs of respiratory collapse and chemical inhalation. Inhalation, Ethan repeated. From what? Patel unfolded the report. There were traces of acetone, ethanol, and a third compound we're still identifying. Acetone, Ethan whispered, like in nail polish remover. Similar, Patel said, but not the same, something more concentrated, more harmful, and the most significant detail, there were chemical residues on her fingertips. Ethan went still. What does that mean? It means she touched something toxic, Patel said. Something right before she died. Ethan shook his head. No, she didn't touch anything dangerous. She only removed her makeup. Silence filled the room. Patel cleared his throat. That might be the problem. 6. The makeup that was makeup. Rita frowned. What do you mean? Patel spoke slowly. We tested her makeup wipes. They contained normal cosmetic residue, yes, but the foundation she removed, it had been mixed with something else. Ethan felt the room tilt around him. Something else, Rita repeated. Patel nodded grimly. A chemical irritant that, when absorbed through the skin or inhaled in high concentration, can cause cardiac and respiratory failure. Ethan's breath caught. Are you saying? Yes, Patel said softly. Something was added to her makeup before she removed it. 7. The question that broke the world. Rita's pen froze. Dr. Patel, are you implying someone tampered with the bride's makeup? I'm not implying, Patel said. I'm telling you. Ethan grabbed the edge of the table to stop himself from collapsing. No, he whispered. No, Arya did her own makeup. He froze. His stomach twisted. No, he repeated, voice trembling. She didn't do all of it. Rita looked up sharply. What do you mean? Ethan pressed a palm against his forehead, trying to think through the fog. Most of her makeup she did herself, but the foundation, she didn't blend that part. She had it done by. His eyes widened in horror. Her makeup artist, Lucas said quietly. Rita stood abruptly. Name? Christina Vale, Ethan whispered. Arya's friend since college. Rita's jaw clenched. If the makeup was tampered, the artist is the first suspect. Ethan's blood ran cold. No, he said. Christina adored Arya. She would never. Rita's voice was firm. Ethan, someone tampered with the foundation, someone with access, someone she trusted, someone close. Her gaze locked onto his. And brides, don't let strangers touch their faces on their wedding day. 8. The husband under suspicion. By noon, the news had spread across the city. Newlywed bride found dead hours after wedding. Husband last to see her alive. The hotel was surrounded by photographers. Reporters swarmed like vultures. Headlines exploded online. Ethan Hale became a suspect in the court of public opinion before he even walked out of the hotel. Rita escorted him through the lobby. Flashes blinded him. People whispered, "That's him. He killed his wife. Look at his face, guilty." Ethan didn't react. He couldn't. The world felt like glass cracking under his feet. Outside, the cold air hit his lungs like needles. He stumbled, gripping Lucas's arm. "Why are they saying that?" he whispered. "Why?" Lucas clenched his jaw. "They always blame the husband first, but we'll clear your name, I swear." Ethan nodded numbly. But the truth was harsher. He wasn't sure he deserved to be cleared. Not because he hurt her. He would have died before letting that happen. But because he didn't protect her. Because he didn't see the signs. Because she had been planning to leave, and he never asked why. 9. Arya's diary. At 1:00 p.m., officers searched Arya's apartment, her old place where she still kept personal things. They found a diary. A leather-bound journal with worn edges and a small lock broken loose. Rita opened it carefully. The first page was dated 2 years earlier. The handwriting was unmistakably Arya's, elegant, soft, full of emotion she never allowed others to see. Rita began reading. The first line made her breath stop. "If anything happens to me, start with the people I love." Her pulse quickened. She turned the page. Not everyone who loves you protects you. Not everyone who smiles at you is safe. And not every danger comes from the past. Some follow you into the future. Rita whispered to herself. "Arya, what were you afraid of?" She closed the diary. She knew exactly what she had to do next. Someone from Arya's past was connected to all of this. Someone she tried to escape. Someone who followed her into marriage. 10. The cliffhanger ending of part 2. At the police station late that evening, Rita approached Ethan slowly. "Ethan, we need to talk." He looked up with exhausted, hollow eyes. "We found something in Arya's diary." "What?" he whispered. Rita hesitated. It wasn't easy to say. But she said it. Arya wrote that someone was following her. Ethan's blood ran cold. "Who?" Rita took a breath. "It looks like she left a name, the same initials that match one of the contacts on her secret phone." Ethan's heart pounded. "MK." Ethan felt the world stop. He whispered the name so softly, it almost didn't leave his lips. "Michael Caine." Rita froze. "You know him?" Ethan nodded slowly. Painfully. He was her ex-fiancé. Rita inhaled sharply. "And where is he now?" Ethan's eyes lifted, dark, broken, terrified. And he whispered. He told Arya he would never let her marry someone else. The ex-fiancé in the shadows. The interrogation room was cold, not in temperature, but in atmosphere. Even the walls seemed to tighten around Ethan as Detective Rita Morgan placed a file on the metal table and took the chair opposite him. A single name floated between them, like a ghost neither wanted to face. Michael Caine. The man Arya once loved. The man she once planned a life with. The man who didn't take losing her lightly. Or at all. The man she almost married. Rita flipped open the file. Tell me everything you know about him. Ethan swallowed. His voice was rough, scraped raw from crying through the early hours of the morning. He and Arya were together for 3 years, engaged for 1. She ended it 18 months ago. She never told me why. Rita raised a brow. She didn't tell you why she ended her engagement. She said it was painful. She didn't want to talk about it. Did she ever look afraid when talking about him? Ethan hesitated. Yes, he admitted. Once, she got a call from an unknown number 6 months ago. After she answered it, she went pale, shaking. I asked who it was. She said it was no one. That was no one, Rita muttered, jotting notes. That was him. Ethan closed his eyes. Why didn't she tell me anything? He whispered. Why didn't she trust me with the truth? Rita leaned forward. Victims of emotional control don't hide secrets to betray the people they love. They hide secrets to protect them. Ethan didn't answer. He didn't have the strength. 2, the friend who sees everything. While Ethan was being questioned, Rita sent officers to interview Christina Vale, Arya's makeup artist and college friend, the woman responsible for doing the bride's foundation hours before she died. Christina's apartment looked like a studio, mirrors everywhere, bags of cosmetics, ring lights glowing like miniature suns. Christina opened the door with red eyes, trembling hands. You're here because of Arya, aren't you? She whispered. Rita nodded. Christina stepped aside. Come in. The moment they sat, Christina burst into tears. She didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve anything that happened to her. Rita allowed her a moment before asking. Christina, I need to know, did you do her makeup yesterday? Yes, Christina wiped her face. She was nervous. She kept touching her face, asking if she looked too pale. I thought she was just anxious. Did she use her own foundation? Yes, she brought it in a small bag. She mixed 2 shades to match her winter skin tone. Did you notice anything unusual about it? Christina shook her head. No, I've used that brand 100 times. Rita's gaze hardened. But someone tampered with it. Christina froze. What do you mean? There was a chemical irritant mixed into the product. Christina's hands flew to her mouth. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God, Arya. Rita leaned forward. Christina, who had access to her makeup bag. Christina blinked through tears. She left it alone for a few minutes backstage during rehearsal. I went to get her some water, but the bag was zipped when I returned. Rita's pen slowed. And who was backstage? Christina's voice dropped to a whisper. Michael Caine was there. I saw him. Rita's blood went cold. He was at the wedding. Not officially, Christina said. He wasn't invited, but I saw him lurking near the service corridor. Arya froze when she saw him. She begged me not to tell Ethan. She said she would handle it. Rita asked quietly. Handle it how? Christina's lip trembled. She said if she ignored him long enough, he would go away. Rita shook her head. Men like him don't just go away. Christina looked up. I think she knew that. 3, the fight the night before. Back at the hotel, Ethan remembered something he had forgotten, something small but significant. Detective. Rita looked up from her notes. What is it? There was an argument the night before the wedding. Between you and Arya. Number between Arya and a man outside her bridal suite. Rita straightened. Did you hear what was said? No, I only heard Arya saying, I said no, please stop following me. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty. And she didn't tell you who it was? No, she said it was a misunderstanding. Rita shut her notebook with a snap. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Ethan's stomach twisted. What are you saying? I'm saying Arya was being stalked. Rita met his eyes. And the stalker was here, at your wedding. 4. The man with the motive. Michael Caine. A successful architect. Handsome, charming, well-spoken. On the surface. But behind closed doors, he was obsessive, controlling, manipulative. Arya once described him as a man who loves like a cage. Rita read through his file. Restraining orders, emotional abuse allegations. A pattern of showing up unannounced in his exes' lives. A note in Arya's diary stood out. He told me once, if I can't have you, no one can. Rita stared at the line for a long minute before whispering. This isn't just jealousy, this is obsession. She closed the diary. We need to find him. 5. A husband in the spotlight. Reporters were still camped outside the station when Rita escorted Ethan out for a break. Flashes exploded. Microphones shoved toward his face. Questions pierced the air like bullets. Did you fight with your wife on your wedding night? Why didn't you go in earlier? Do you know who killed her? Did your wife plan to leave you? Are you hiding something? Ethan felt his knees weaken. Lucas pulled him toward the car. Don't answer, Ethan. Don't say a word. But Ethan did say something, softly, almost too softly to hear. I couldn't protect her. Lucas stopped, gripping his shoulders. Listen to me. You loved her. You loved her more than anyone. You didn't hurt her. Ethan looked away. But I didn't save her either. 6. The train ticket mystery. Back at the station, Rita studied the train ticket again. A one-way journey. Departing hours after the wedding night. This wasn't random. This wasn't fear. This was escape. Rita murmured to herself. She was leaving someone, but was she leaving Ethan or Michael? She checked the date the ticket was purchased. 3 days before the wedding. Arya had made her decision days earlier. But why? She flipped through the diary again. This time, she found a page marked with a dried flower petal. The page read, I can't do this to Ethan. He deserves a whole heart, not one that's running from the past. Below it. But Michael found me again. He told me he would ruin everything. My only chance is to run before he does. Rita exhaled sharply. Arya wasn't leaving Ethan. She was trying to protect him. 7. The surveillance footage. At 3:40 p.m., officers reviewing hotel surveillance footage made a discovery. Rita entered the monitoring room with Ethan behind her. The screen showed a hallway outside the bridal suite. Timestamp, 11:02 p.m. An hour before Arya took off her makeup. A man appeared in the frame. Tall, dark-haired, wearing a black jacket, face partially hidden by a cap. But Ethan recognized him instantly. Oh my God, he whispered, that's him. Michael Caine. He moved toward the door, but Arya stepped out of her suite. She saw him. She froze. He grabbed her arm. She jerked back. They exchanged furious words without sound. Arya pulled away, shaking, and hurried inside. Michael punched the wall before storming off. The footage ended. Rita leaned back in her chair, voice low. This man threatened your wife the night she died. And she didn't tell me, Ethan whispered, voice breaking. She didn't want you in danger, Rita said. She was protecting you. Ethan clenched his fists, so tightly his nails dug into his skin. Where is he now? We're trying to find out. 8. The message on the secret phone. The forensic tech handed Rita the unlocked second phone. We retrieved the deleted messages. Rita's heart clenched as she scrolled. The last message, sent hours before the wedding, was from MK. It read, You will regret this. I told you I'd never let you go. Above that, if you walk down that aisle, you won't live to see sunrise. Rita closed the phone slowly. Her jaw tightened. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't an accident. This was a threat fulfilled. She whispered, "Arya was murdered." Ethan leaned forward. "And you think Michael did it?" "He had motive," Rita replied. "He had access, he had the opportunity." Ethan's voice cracked. "And he had her fear." 9. The day ends in horror. At 8:10 p.m., officers traced Michael's phone signal to an abandoned cabin 30 miles outside the city. Rita, along with a tactical team, rushed to the location. Ethan wasn't allowed to go. He waited at the station, packing, hands trembling, stomach tight. Hours passed. Finally, Rita returned. Ethan rushed to her. "Did you find him?" She didn't answer immediately. Her expression was grim. "We found the cabin. And there were signs someone had been living there recently." Ethan's pulse spiked. "Was he there?" "No," Rita said, "but we found something else." She held out an evidence bag. Inside it, a small black umbrella. The same kind Arya carried everywhere. Ethan's breath left his body. That's hers." "Yes." Ethan sank to a chair. "He took her things," he whispered. "He took her things after she died." Rita placed a hand on his shoulder. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." 10. The cliffhanger ending of Part 3. At 11:58 p.m., as Ethan finally rested his head against the cold wall of the station, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. His shaking hands answered it. He brought the phone to his ear. A distorted voice whispered, "She was mine first." Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. "Who is this, Michael?" The voice continued. "You should have stayed out of it." Ethan froze. "Where are you?" he whispered. A long silence. And then, "I'm closer than you think." The call ended. Ethan dropped the phone. His voice barely escaped his throat. "He's watching me." Rita's blood ran cold. Michael Caine wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was hunting. The wind was colder that morning, not because of the season, but because grief had its own temperature, one that clung to every surface, every breath, every heartbeat that tried to continue in a world broken by loss. Detective Rowan Hale stood on the edge of the quiet cemetery, watching the small cluster of mourners drifting away. White lilies were scattered across the grave like fallen pieces of innocence. Emma Sterling's name, etched cleanly in marble, felt unreal, like someone had carved a lie into stone. Her husband, Ethan Sterling, remained seated on the damp grass long after everyone left. His face was hollow, drained of color and spirit. For hours, he hadn't moved. Not even when the cold breeze slipped through his suit jacket. Not even when the sun began dropping low behind the trees. 2 hours after she removed her makeup. 2 hours after she whispered, she felt dizzy. 2 hours after he said the words that now echoed through every interview, every report. "I should have stayed with her." But Rowan had learned something else today, something that changed everything. He stepped forward. "Ethan," he said gently, "I need to talk to you, not as a suspect, as someone who deserves the truth." Ethan looked up slowly, like the world had weight and it was crushing him in place. "I told you everything," he whispered. "Every detail, every moment." "No," Rowan replied softly. "You told me everything except the part that's eating you alive." Ethan blinked, confused, but only for a moment. Then the truth flashed in his expression. The truth he had been burying under guilt and grief. "Let's go somewhere quiet," Rowan said. Ethan didn't resist. He didn't argue. He simply stood, brushed soil from his knees, and followed. The house of Esisiritias. Emma and Ethan's home felt like a museum of a dream, violently interrupted. Wedding gifts still stacked unopened. Petals from the wedding bouquet lay scattered on the dining table. Her sandals, the ones she changed into after the ceremony, sat neatly by the living room rug. Everything looked like she'd return any moment. Ethan walked in slowly, touching nothing. Rowan followed him into the living room, pulling a small recorder from his coat pocket. "You don't have to record this," Ethan said quietly. "I do," Rowan answered. "Not for me, for her." That seemed to break something in Ethan. His shoulders slouched, his breath came in sharp, uneven pulls. "She wasn't supposed to remove the makeup that night," he began. "Not so soon." "Why?" Ethan sat heavily on the couch, staring at the wall as if the memories were projected on it. "She had an allergy, mild, we thought." He swallowed hard. To one ingredient in certain beauty products. She carried an epinephrine pen. She always read labels, always. Rowan leaned forward. "But that night was different." "Yes," Ethan whispered. "The stylist used a new brand. Emma checked it. It was safe. But—" His voice cracked. "She said her face felt tight after the reception. She wanted to take everything off." "And you told her." Ethan closed his eyes. "Wait, we'll do it together." Those were the last words I said before she went to the bathroom. Rowan felt the truth creeping, toward them like a slow, devastating shadow. "You weren't with her when she removed it," the detective said softly. Ethan shook his head helplessly. "I wanted to fix the suitcase zipper. It took me 15 stupid minutes." His voice became a whisper of torment. "When I found her, she was on the floor gasping, her face flushed, her eyes swollen. I tried to give her the pen, but her hands were trembling so badly she couldn't hold it." Ethan's breath shattered. "She said my name, but I couldn't understand the rest. I kept shouting for her to stay with me." Rowan remained quiet, letting the storm run its course. "It wasn't just the allergy," Ethan said suddenly. "It wasn't just the makeup removal. Someone—" He took a trembling breath. "Someone tampered with her skin cleanser." Rowan sat still. "You know that how?" Ethan opened a small wooden box on the coffee table, a box Rowan had asked him about before. Ethan never opened it then. Inside lay a tiny bottle, the brand Emma used for years, except now a faint chemical smell lingered, one that shouldn't have been there. "It wasn't her cleanser," Ethan said, voice hollow. "It looked like it, but someone switched it." "Why didn't you tell me this from the beginning?" Rowan asked quietly. "Because you would think I was lying. You would think I was desperate, or worse, guilty. And you're not." Ethan met his eyes, grief burning with a kind of desperate honesty. "I loved her," he whispered, "more than I ever thought I could love anyone." The missing thread. Rowan walked to the kitchen, Ethan right behind him. "Emma had no enemies," Ethan continued. "She was kind, she forgave easily, she believed in people." Rowan paused. "That's often exactly the type of person who gets hurt. Did anyone behave strangely before or after the wedding?" Ethan hesitated. "There was someone," he finally said. "Someone Emma trusted, someone I never liked." Rowan turned sharply. "Who?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Her childhood friend, Lydia Carrington." The name struck Rowan like a cold slap. Lydia had been present at the reception. Crying, trembling, dramatic, too dramatic. When Rowan spoke to her before, she claimed to be devastated, but some parts of her story sounded rehearsed. "What happened between her and Emma?" Rowan asked. "They were best friends growing up," Ethan said. "But Emma discovered Lydia had feelings for her, more than platonic. She confronted her gently, but Lydia didn't take it well." Rowan's jaw tightened. "And Lydia didn't attend the engagement party." "No," Ethan said. "She told Emma she wasn't ready." "But she came to the wedding." "Yes," Ethan answered bitterly. "And she brought a gift." "What kind of gift?" "A box of cosmetics." Rowan's pulse quickened. "Do you still have it?" "Yes." Emma placed it in the guest room dresser. Rowan stood immediately. He didn't run, but he moved fast enough that Ethan followed for fear of losing him. They entered the guest room. Ethan opened the drawer. Inside lay a neatly arranged set of luxury cosmetics, all sealed. Beautiful, innocent-looking. Rowan lifted one carefully, checking the edges. There. A faint chemical stain along the inside flap, barely visible. Don't touch anything else, Rowan said sharply. This goes to the lab. Ethan's breath hitched. You think Lydia? Rowan didn't answer. Not yet, not without proof. The confrontation. Lydia Carrington answered the door with red-rimmed eyes, wrapped in a robe as though she'd been crying for days. Rowan didn't waste time. I need you to come with me, he said firmly. Lydia blinked. Is this about Emma? Yes, Rowan said, and about the gift you brought her. Her expression froze, just for a fraction of a second, but Rowan caught it. What did you do to her cleanser? He asked bluntly. Lydia's voice trembled. I don't know what you mean. I loved Emma. Too much, Rowan said quietly. Enough that you couldn't stand watching her marry someone else. Lydia backed away. You don't understand. She changed. She wasn't the same after meeting Ethan. She didn't pick up my calls. She didn't need me anymore. Her voice dropped, cold and dangerous. She said she'd never leave me behind, but she did. So you poisoned her makeup, Rowan demanded. Lydia's jaw clenched. I didn't poison her. Then what did you do? Lydia's fragile composure shattered with a scream. I just wanted her to stop the wedding. Her hands shook violently. The product wasn't supposed to kill her. I only added a skin-reactive agent, something to cause a rash and embarrassment, something that would delay the ceremony. I wanted her to come to me, to ask for help. Her eyes filled with insane devotion. She always came to me. Rowan's voice hardened. Lydia, she's dead. Lydia collapsed onto the floor, sobbing as she whispered. No, I didn't know. I thought she would call me. Rowan watched her break apart. The truth was crystal clear now. Lydia's sabotage had triggered a reaction far beyond what she expected. Emma's allergy, combined with the chemical Lydia added, created a fatal storm inside her body. A storm Lydia never thought about, never researched, never considered. Because obsession doesn't think. It only clings. And destroys. The final visit. When Rowan returned to the Sterling home that evening, Ethan was sitting on the staircase, head in his hands. Rowan sat beside him. It was Lydia, he said gently. She confessed. Ethan didn't move for a long moment. Why, he whispered eventually. Why Emma? She didn't want Emma to marry you, Rowan replied. She didn't want to lose her. Ethan closed his eyes, tears rolling silently. It wasn't your fault, Rowan added. None of it. Ethan shook his head. I left her alone. I should have stayed. You couldn't have known, Rowan insisted. Silence stretched, thick and painful, until Ethan finally spoke again. Her last words, he whispered. She tried to say something. I think she was trying to tell me she loved me. Rowan stood quietly. I think she did, and I think she knew you loved her too. Ethan wiped his eyes, though it changed nothing about the brokenness inside them. What happens now? He asked. Rowan looked around the dim hallway, the wedding photos still shining on the walls, the petals still on the dining table, the scent of her perfume lingering faintly in the air. Now, Rowan said softly, you grieve, you heal, and you keep her memory alive the way she deserved to live. Ethan nodded weakly. And for the first time since that horrible night, he let himself cry, truly cry, for the woman he loved, for the life they lost, and for the future that would never be. Epilogue, 1 year later. The grave was covered in fresh lilies again. Ethan knelt down, placing a letter beneath the flowers. I'm learning to breathe again, the letter read. Not because I'm forgetting you, but because you taught me how to keep going. A soft breeze passed, rustling the branches. Ethan looked up. Somewhere, he hoped she heard him. Somewhere, he hoped she knew the truth. Somewhere, perhaps she forgave him. Just as he had forgiven himself.